If you're looking for a noticeable but unobtrusive update to your 24 and newer Tacoma sound and driving experience, look no further than the Flowmaster FlowFX dual same-side exit exhaust we have here today. While it's easy to go overboard on an exhaust, the FlowFX system we have here definitely errs more on the side of subtlety. Coming in at a 2 out of 5 on our loudness meter, this system combines a clean, updated look with a more subdued version of that classic Flowmaster sound, making it a perfect option for a daily driven truck. In stock form, the 2.4 turbo engine in the new Tacoma doesn't really sound like much of anything. When you put your foot down, you get kind of a grumbly sound from the engine, maybe a little hint of turbo whoosh, but not much else. And getting into an aftermarket exhaust on these engines, it's a turbocharged 4-cylinder. It's pretty easy to go overboard and get something that sounds really gritty and, well, frankly, not all that great or just plain too loud. The FlowFX system, however, gives you just enough to keep you satisfied, but it's not going to rattle your windows or get your neighbors all shaking their fists at you. Like you heard in the clips at the beginning of the video, it's not super loud, but it just gives these trucks a nice injection of character. The tone here is deeper than stock. It gets a little more raspy and angry as the revs increase, but it gives it, again, a lot of character. It's definitely what you'd describe as a more mild sound, and again, relatively unobtrusive. Flowmaster themselves call this one moderately aggressive. Now the piping here is 3-inch tubing into the muffler, with 2.5-inch piping leading back all the way out to the tips. So this is also going to be a little less restrictive than your stock setup too, meaning that you may see or feel an increase in power and responsiveness. The increased airflow that this one affords you also means less back pressure, which is important on a turbocharged engine. Inside of the cabin, you are of course going to hear more with this than you would with your stock system installed. Instead of just hearing the engine noise, you get more exhaust sound with this one installed, and helps balance it out a little bit. However, it's not going to be so much that you can't carry on a conversation, listen to a song, or enjoy a podcast. It's also not going to produce a ton of drone either, and Flowmaster does call the FlowFX muffler a straight through unit, which you can kind of see here. You can also tell from picking this thing up, it's also quite hefty, and you can hear there's quite a bit of baffling inside, hence that more mild tone, especially as compared to something like their Outlaw series. This muffler also does a good job of keeping drone at bay, and just makes for a more pleasant driving experience overall. On a truck that's driven daily, one that sees a lot of highway miles or adventures, that's going to be a great benefit. Now, capping this particular system off are these dual large tips. This is a dual same side exit setup, and the twin pipes continue from the muffler back toward the driver's side rear wheel well, and the tips are going to line up like this. They're just going to tuck up a little closer to the bumper of the truck. It's a nice clean look. The keen-eyed enthusiast will definitely spot this right away. Plus, having the tips tuck up closer to the body of the truck means a little bit more ground clearance for off-roading as well. Construction here is 16 gauge 409 grade stainless steel, so you're going to get some good protection against rust and corrosion, but it won't be quite as much as you would get with an exhaust that's made of T304 stainless. However, you also don't have to pay the price of T304 stainless with this one. The piping here, again, it's all mandrel bent tubing, 3 inches in diameter into the muffler, 2.5 inches in diameter all the way back to the tips. Those tips, by the way, are T304 stainless themselves, and they've got this black ceramic coating on them, and they're dual wall too, so these are going to look good and they should last you a long time. Pricing comes in at about $1,600, and that does make this a decidedly premium option within the segment. Now, exhausts on these trucks are not inexpensive. You really got to be willing to shell out for something decent. And if you want something that sounds good, isn't going to ruin your hearing, and also looks cool, it's worth trying to find some room in the budget for a setup like this particular FlowFX. Installation gets a 2 out of 3 on our difficulty meter, and the job should take you around 2 hours to get it all done. This is very much standard fare for an exhaust. Everything you need is included in the kit, and it's designed to bolt right in place of your factory setup using all of your factory exhaust hanger locations as well, so you don't have to modify anything on the truck itself. You also get an extension in the kit for the inlet pipe should you need the extra length to accommodate for a larger cab and or bed length. Instructions on which trucks in particular need it are included in the box, and we're going to go over that a bit more in depth when we head out to the shop. Speaking of which, let's head out there now. We'll walk you through the install process.
For this install, you need a 3/8 impact and ratchet, 3/8 extension, 15, 14, 13, and 12 millimeter socket, an exhaust hanger tool, 14 and 13 millimeter wrench, a clip removal tool, a magnet, and a mallet. All right, today we're gonna be installing an exhaust on our Tacoma, so let's get started. All right, so we're gonna start taking our factory exhaust off by working at the back and working our way forward. So we have our first flange here that's right in front of our rear axle. We're gonna grab our impact and 14 millimeter socket and take these 2 nuts off. All right, now that those are off, this will allow us to remove our tailpipe. So we just have a couple hangers to hold our tailpipe section on. So we're gonna grab our exhaust hanger tool and pop our first one off here at the flange. All right, and we just have our hanger in the rear here. Just support your exhaust. And you can pull the tail section out. Next, we're gonna come up to our next flange. So this is in front of our main muffler. We have 2 spring bolts here. Same thing, impact and 14mm socket. Take those 2 out. Now that those are out, we have 3 hangers on our muffler that we'll take off. All right, so we have our 1 hanger in the rear and then we have 2 in the front of the muffler. So we're gonna use our hanger tool and pop them off. Just make sure you are supporting the exhaust because it will fall. All right, and we just take our 2 in the front off. All right, so now we have our last 2 spring bolts on our front flange. Same thing, we're just gonna put an extension on our 14mm socket to get those out. And then this is just held on with 2 hangers, one here, one here. Pop those off. Pull front pipe out of the way. So to start off, we're going to be installing 2 new hangers on our truck. They both look the same. One is going to go to our spare tire bracket mount right here. We're going to remove that bolt, tighten it like so. Another one will go in this slot back here on the frame with the bolt through it like that. Now we're going to get our cover off on the side of the frame here and get our bolt through and attach this front one first. So in the outside of your frame here, you're going to see a cover. We're going to grab our clip removal tool and just pop that off. Out of the way so you can access it. We're gonna grab a magnet that you can bend so we can hold our bolt into place. We're gonna go through the slot, have it come out down here. So we have our bolt and our washer. We're just gonna feed that through. Like so. On the bottom, we're gonna put our hanger, and then we have a flat washer, a lock washer, and our nut. All right, so our hanger is gonna angle like this, so we're gonna tighten it down now. We're gonna grab a 13mm socket and ratchet and tighten it. So I have my ratchet and 13mm socket. I have my 13mm wrench through that axis hole, just holding down the head. We'll tighten this down. See that gets tight. Make sure it's angled towards the inside of the vehicle. Go ahead and tighten that down. Now you see your mount here for your spare tire. We're gonna take this bolt out. It's gonna be on the top here. You're gonna grab your ratchet and 12mm socket. Take that out. I'm gonna grab our bolt with our washer. I'm gonna thread that down through where that bolt just came out of. If you want, you can switch to your 13mm socket. We're gonna grab our hanger, our flat washer, lock washer, and then nut. And this is gonna be angled the same direction as the other one. But once you get that threaded on, go ahead, grab your ratchet, 13mm socket, and tighten that down. So we're gonna start up here by installing our exhaust with our flange pipe. So we have 2 hangers up here along with our factory bolts. We're gonna get this slid in our front isolator first. Pretty easy just to push in. Our back one here, if you need to, you can just pop off by hand and slide that over both. We're gonna get our flange in position and install our factory spring bolts. And we're just gonna do the same thing for the next one. We're just gonna get these hand tight for right now, and we'll come back and tighten them when we get the rest of the exhaust installed. Next, we have our crossover pipe to go to the other side of the truck. We have a 3-inch clamp already on it. You'll see the double hanger here. We're gonna slide this over our front flange pipe, like that. And we have our 2 hangers back here. It's gonna do the same thing. These are pretty easy to pop off by hand. If you need to, you can use your exhaust hanger tool. We're just gonna slide that over our new pipe and onto our factory hanger on both sides here. Next, we have our muffler. As you can see, we already have our 3-inch clamp on here. And we're just gonna slide that onto our crossover pipe and just let this hang here. Now, if you need to, this is where we would put your extension pipe in, but we don't need that on our truck here. So we got our muffler, we can get our 2 exit pipes on now. So we're gonna get our first over the axle pipe here. You'll see the one with the hard curve that's gonna go on the outside of the muffler. And then we have our hanger here. We already have our clamps on our muffler. They are 2.5-inch clamps. We get this slid onto our hanger, and our muffler is just slid a little too forward. So we just need to slide it back, no big deal. We'll get that in place so we can get our other exit pipe on. So we have our next over the axle pipe. You just want to make sure you have the right one. This one is a little bit shorter, and it's going to line up with this hanger right here. So we'll get that started in our hanger and get it into our muffler. Now these pipes are just going to hang a little weird until we get the rest on. As you can see, this one's going to need to rotate a decent amount. But we'll go get our tailpipes on so we can get these held in place. We're gonna move on to our next pipe here. We're gonna stick on the outside here. So I'm just gonna go into this one laying on the track bar here. Just make sure you have the right one. The hanger will be facing towards the front of the vehicle. We're gonna get that into our hanger that we installed first, and then slide the pipes into each other. You can see we already have one of our 2.5-inch clamps on there. Go. And we can go ahead and work on our inside pipe. So we have our longer of our 2 pipes coming for our tailpipes here. As you see where you have a clamp on, we're gonna get this in our hanger first. You see I loosened up that 13mm just so we can get that angle correct. We'll get this hanger in, then we'll get our pipes into each other. So we're gonna come up over our axle and get this slid into each other here. Like so. So we're gonna come back to the front and start tightening and adjusting as we need. So we're gonna tighten our front flange bolts here, grab our impact extension and 14mm socket. We're just gonna go back and forth just to make sure they tighten down evenly. We can keep moving back now. Move back to our first aftermarket clamp and grab a 15mm socket and tighten that down. Come back to the front of our muffler and we have our clamp here. So we'll make sure that you have the muffler angled correctly so it's laying flat, and tighten that down. Next we have our 2 out of the muffler. Now you may need to tighten these and then loosen and adjust, just because in the back over the axle, the pipes are very close and may hit each other. So just might need to do some fine-tune adjustment afterwards. Same thing, impact and 15mm socket, tighten these down. Now we have our last 2 clamps. We have our one here. Our one fell down here, but we'll pull that back up. We'll grab that and tighten this down. So we'll grab our impacted 15mm socket, tighten this last clamp down here. So we have our 2 90s for our tailpipes here. We have one shorter one that will go in the outside pipe. We already have our 2.5-inch clamp on there. Slide that all the way on. Same thing with the longer one. We can get that lined up so we can get our tips on after, but we'll tighten down our clamps with our impact and 15mm socket. Now we can get both of our tips on. Now we may need to adjust these pipes a little bit, and these tips are pretty tight. But we'll get them in place If you need to, just grab a mallet, tap that on. Same thing for the rear one. Last thing we need to do is just tighten down our clamps, or I'm sorry, our tips. So we have our bolts here. It's all 14mm hardware from my ratchet, 14mm socket, and a 14mm wrench. Tighten both of them down. And that wraps up our install of our Flowmaster FlowFX dual exhaust system with black tips. Same side exit for our 2024 and newer Tacoma. And remember, for everything Tacoma, keep it right here at extremeterrain.com.